Welcome back to Insects for Fun. Today, we're talking about a group of insects that look like they wandered in from an action movie set and never left. And yes, these are flies, but not the kind you try and hit with a swatter near your soda. These are robberflies, some of the most efficient, aggressive, and intimidating flies in the insect world. If there were an apex predator category for flies, robberflies would be sitting comfortably at the top. So, what exactly are robberflies? Robberflies belong to the family Acylidae, a large and diverse group within the order Diptera, the true flies. There are over 7,500 described species worldwide, and likely thousands more still undescribed. They're also found on every continent except, well, Antarctica. These guys thrive in deserts, forests, grasslands, wetlands, and even urban environments. The name Acylidae comes from the Greek word asylos, meaning unapproachable or dangerous, which is honestly perfect for them because they are built for predation. Most species have elongated bodies, long spiny legs, large compound eyes, and a dense tuft of bristles on their face, called a mystax. Basically, a mustache made of armor. It actually protects their face and eyes from struggling prey, which is such a wild adaptation, and honestly makes me like them even more. So let's get further into the anatomy of these killer flies. Robberflies are anatomically masterpieces of violence. Their legs are strong and spined, designed to snatch insects straight out of the air. Their mouth parts form a rigid proboscis, not for sipping, but for stabbing. And of course, they've got their murder stash, the mystax. Once a robberfly captures prey, it injects a powerful mix of neurotoxic and proteolytic saliva. Proteolytic basically just means it can break down proteins. This venom paralyzes the victim almost instantly and begins breaking down the internal tissues. Like assassin bugs, robberflies practice external digestion. They don't chew, they liquefy. Large species of these flies can overpower insects much bigger than themselves. For example, the giant robberflies in the genus Promachus have been documented capturing large dragonflies, cicadas, and even hefty paper wasps in midair, subduing them almost instantly with a venomous bite before carrying them back to a perch to feed. But how can a robberfly take out a dragonfly? Those are quite literally the dragons of flying insects, right? Well, the short answer is robberflies usually aren't faster over long distances, but they don't need to be, because robberflies are ambush predators. Most species perch in sunny elevated locations, twigs, fence posts, rocks, tall grass, waiting patiently. When prey flies past, the robberfly launches with explosive speed, intercepting the prey in midair. The entire sequence from takeoff to capture can take just a fraction of a second. Robberflies rely on explosive acceleration, precise timing, and interception rather than raw speed. Meanwhile, dragonflies are incredible endurance flyers, capable of sustained high-speed flight and agile turns. But they often fly predictable routes while hunting or patrolling territory. Robberflies exploit this by launching from a concealed perch and cutting across the dragonfly's flight path, essentially ambushing them midair before the dragonfly has time to react. Not all species of robberflies are sit-and-wait hunters though. Some patrol territories, actively flying short routes and scanning for movement. Once contact is made, the robberfly's spiny legs lock around the prey, and the rigid proboscis delivers a fast, targeted bite. The injected venom rapidly paralyzes its meal, neutralizing any defensive abilities of its victim. Afterwards, the robberfly typically carries it back to a perch where feeding can take several minutes to over an hour, depending on prey size. But what exactly is the goal food for a robberfly? Pretty much anything they can catch. Robberflies are generalist predators, but individual species may specialize. Their prey list includes bees and wasps, butterflies and moths, dragonflies and damselflies, grasshoppers, beetles, other flies, and occasionally spiders. Yes, robberflies will happily eat pollinators, which sometimes gives them a bad reputation. But ecologically, they help regulate insect populations and maintain balance. Robberflies undergo complete metamorphosis: egg, larva, pupa, adult. Eggs are laid in soil, decaying wood, leaf litter, or plant stems, and larval development can take months or even years depending on species and climate. In temperate regions, robberflies are most active from late spring through early fall. Adults are visual hunters and prefer sunny, warm conditions, which is why you're most likely to spot them basking on exposed perches during hot, calm days. So, what happens then when winter hits and flying insects all but disappear? In temperate regions, most robberflies don't survive the cold as adults. Instead, they overwinter in their larval stage. After eggs are laid in soil, leaf litter, or decaying wood, the larvae burrow deep into the ground or organic material, where temperatures are more stable and protected from freezing. During this time, robberfly larvae dramatically slow their metabolism. They continue to live as predators underground, feeding occasionally on other soil-dwelling invertebrates when conditions allow, or remaining largely inactive during the coldest months. Some species can remain in this larval state for multiple years, waiting for the right environmental cues, like warming soil temperatures and increasing day length. Pupation usually occurs in late spring, timed perfectly so adults emerge just as flying insect populations rebound. This strategy allows robberflies to completely avoid the most dangerous season for aerial predators. Rather than trying to survive freezing temperatures and food shortages as adults, they simply press pause underground and re-enter the ecosystem when conditions are great. Robberflies play a crucial role in ecosystems as top invertebrate predators. They help prevent population explosions, and they, like many insects, are indicators of healthy ecosystems. High robberfly diversity often correlates with intact habitats and abundant insect life. When it comes to defensive behaviors, robberflies use speed and cryptic coloration to escape their predators, which are mainly birds, because, as it turns out, these flies are actually very near the top of the flying arthropod food chain. Sometimes other insects like dragonflies and mantids can eat them, but this is usually only if the robberfly miscalculates a landing or strike. And though these insects are fast and furious towards other small prey, they are not aggressive toward humans. Of course, if you grab one or mishandle one, then the larger species can certainly deliver a painful bite. But seriously, you have to be putting yourself in that position, which already seems quite difficult for a normal person. Their speed is often their best defense, so for humans to even grab one would require an insect net or ninja-like reflexes. Unfortunately, robberflies don't feature heavily in folklore, but among entomologists, they are legendary. Their flight speed, vision, and hunting precision make them frequent subjects of biomechanical and neurological research. Robberflies are famous for their fast visual reaction times, which makes their neurons incredibly interesting to study. We basically want to understand how a small nervous system like theirs can make split-second decisions. Also, the way they fly is invaluable for drone interception algorithms and energy-efficient models. The list goes on. But this is where my episode on robberflies comes to an end. Thank you as always for listening, and make sure to go rate the show 5 stars on whatever platform you listen. It would also be super helpful if you shared the show with family and friends who you think might be interested in learning more about the world of entomology. Thanks again for listening.